This episode was helped brought to you by our newest sponsor, Kalona Brewing Company. They're a brewery out there in Eastern Iowa. So if you're in the area, make sure to stop by Kalona and check out their brewery. Great food at the restaurant there, great beer, obviously. If you're in the Midwest, check out any Hy-Vees. I believe they carry the 6-packs and they have different types of flavors. So you guys are going to want to, definitely try that out. And I think throughout this whole process, Fishing Kid and myself for Beer Fish Fanatics, we're going to be doing some giveaways here and there. If you guys can go ahead and tag us here and there with your Kalona beer. So other than that, enjoy the episode, guys. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Beer Fish Fanatics. This is Grandy with My Pop Fishing. We have
Kit with the Fishing Kit YouTube channel and now on TikTok.
He is on TikTok. So just kind of give everybody a heads up. We were just talking about this before we jumped on. He's exploding on TikTok off of freaking filleting a walleye. Good shit, Kit.
Well, yeah, like a video posted last week just hit 100,000 views. So something.
There you go. And then today, just kind of give everybody a heads up. We have somebody who I've been reaching out to. I'm really actually super excited to have him on. The reason being is I have no idea about his industry, but it does coincide with what I love to do, which is fishing. And hopefully one of these days I'll be able to get a monster fish where he can help me to kind of show the world what I can actually do once in a while, right? I can catch fish sometimes, but we got Jimmy Lawrence with Lawrence Taxidermy Studio. Thanks, Jimmy, for joining us.
You bet.
Cool. Yeah, and then, welcome.
Today, I wanted to give a quick shout out. I'm actually drinking something a little bit different today. It's the from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company. It's called the Pompeii Beach Indian Pale Ale with pineapple mango. I want to give them a quick shout out because we were out there at the Iowa Craft Beer Festival, and the sales rep, I want to say, was his name James? I forgot. If I butchered it, I think it was James or something like that. Sorry, but thank you so much for giving us some beer to try out, man. What do you got, Kit?
I got the classic Kalona classic, the beer I always have.
There you go. Cheers, guys.
All right, cheers.
Oh boy, this is damn good, Kit.
What do you got? What do you got down there, Jimmy?
I've got a refreshing Sun-Kissed, the Sun-Kissed variety, so it's very refreshing.
He's behaving unlike us. I don't behave very well, but Kit, you were the one who told me you like pineapple, right?
I do like pineapple.
Have you tried this one yet?
No, I got it in my fridge though. I was looking at it. I was like, should I do this one today?
All right. If you guys like pineapple, listeners, followers, this is damn good. It tastes like pineapple, and it's like an IPA all infused with mango. It's crazy, dude. It worked.
Nice.
It really works. Huh? Not bad. All right. Shout out to Toppling and Goliath. Good job on that beer. So good stuff, man. But let's get into the good stuff, Jimmy. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, Lawrence Taxidermy Studio, and just where you're located and everything? But tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this, man.
Sure. So basically, for as long as I can remember, fish have consumed almost every aspect of my life. Like they're on my brain 24/7. Like it's been my coping skill since I was a kid. I just love fish and fishing. So when I was, I think, 15 or 16, I caught a bass. At the time, it was the biggest one I'd caught. And I begged my mom to get it mounted, basically. And she told me I could. It's going to be your birthday, your Christmas, every gift that you're going to get for the next rest of your life, because we didn't have much money. So I called around and finally got a guy to answer my phone call. And I took it up to him. And long story short, I got it back. And I thought, man, like, if I could do this, like every single thing I would ever catch would be free. I could do it myself, not realizing that literally everything costs money. So anyway, I bought some VHS tapes and some old crusty taxidermy manuals that I found. And I would go down to the pond and I would skin a bass and then I would screw it up. And then I would skin a bass and I would screw it up. Eventually I got one to hold together and I thought, you know what, this is pretty cool. So kind of tried doing it for some friends and stuff like that. And then right after high school, I attended a school that's no longer open. And just from that point on, just have been a sponge and have just basically learned everything I can learn about fish and fish taxidermy and just taxidermy in general, but, predominantly fish. But it's kind of funny. I grew up competing and stuff all across the United States in competitions. And now I judge competitions and I teach at competitions. So I've been on both sides of that coin,
Wow.
So it's pretty cool to do that. But I am located now in Southwest Iowa, where I was born and raised, about an hour and 45 minutes southwest of Des Moines. So I'm kind of tucked down here right above Missouri there. And I've operated my shop here in this general area for about 10 years or so. I've traveled a little bit, and had shops in different places, but I've been full time here in the Southwest Iowa region for a little over a decade now. Man, I've done everything from Shiner minnows to 12-foot long marlin, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Did someone ask you to do that Shiner minnow, or is that just something you just did for shits and giggles?
Just like a chase fish, I do like little bait fish in front of crappie and stuff like that. I've done, itty bitty things, all the way up to, like I said, 12-foot marlin. I've done Goliath grouper. I just recently completed a 400-pound bluefin tuna. I've done a lot of really big fish, but, day in, day out, the most common fish that I do is a largemouth bass between, say, 21 and 25 inches.
Wow.
So that's pretty much my bread and butter. But and as with catch and release and social media and everything, as predominant and prevalent as it is, the bulk or the lion's share of my work is replicas, which are fiberglass reproductions. So you don't actually need to kill the fish in order to do that. Having said that, I still do a few of the traditional skin mounts each year as well. But it seems like as time progresses, from the time that I started till now, skin mounts are getting fewer and fewer.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about, like, what are the pros and cons for a skin mount versus a replica?
Sure. The biggest one I would say, as far as a pro is, as far as getting a replica done, is you can release the fish, which is pretty cool.
Right.
Having said that, if you catch something that has a unique dimension, like if you catch a 20-inch smallmouth bass with a 19-inch girth, chances are there probably isn't going to be a mold that size available. In that case, anything with a abnormal size or something like that, if you can bring yourself to kill the fish, then we can make a custom replica of that fish. And by that, I mean, I can take that fish, I can make an exact copy, an exact mold of that fish. And then I can pull multiple copies out of that mold. So, if I make that one mold, that one fish dies, but I can pull, several copies of that fish out of that one mold. So one fish dying can potentially save, dozens, down the road. So that's kind of, letting the fish live is obviously the biggest pro with, catch and release. As far as another thing is like longevity, like skin mounts are organic material. They're real skin. So living in Iowa where we do, there's a lot of heat, humidity, hot and cold. So even, in the air itself, there's just moisture in the air and then there's dry air. So over time, the skin mount can break down, fall apart. And I'm not talking like 5 years. I mean, like down the road, 15 years, they can last a very, very long time. The bass that I had done when I was a kid, I still got hanging in a bedroom and it still is holding up very well. And it's, it's 17, 18 years old, almost 20 years old actually. So it's getting right up there. But so there's no shrinkage with replicas. There's no breakdown with replicas. You can literally take a replica, hose it down with a garden hose, bring it inside. It's going to look exactly the same as it did when you took it out there. With a skin mount, they're just environmental factors play into it. So that's kind of the pros and cons there. And then another pro from my standpoint, as far as doing a replica, is I don't have to wait for things to dry. So let's say you caught a 5-pound largemouth bass and you wanted to get a replica done. In theory, you could just call me, and as soon as I either pull that mold or order that reproduction in, I can start working on it and get it finished right away. Whereas with a skin mount, it would take me a few hours to skin it and make the body, all that stuff. And then it would have to dry for a period of a week to 2 weeks, depending on what it is. Then it would take me several days to get it ready to paint. And then I'd have to go through the painting process. So for me, I can turn around and make a quicker profit and get you your fish back, in theory quicker by using a replica, because I don't have that downtime of letting that fish dry.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So do you some people feel like a skin mount always looks better than a replica? Do you agree with that or disagree?
So I think, and this is just my opinion, and I've been around a lot, and heard about every kind of excuse or justification for each one that you can have. And to me, honestly, like, I don't push one way or the other. Whichever one you want to do is fine with me. But people are so used to seeing replicas like in Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops that have 1/4-inch fins and just look like a painted piece of plastic that my son would play with in the bathtub. So they're just not used to the high-end detailed stuff. Like, I have an Instagram page where I post very up close detailed pictures of my molds and the casts and everything like that. The molds and casts that are done today with replicas, every wrinkle, every scale ring, every fold, every muscle is perfectly recreated and captured in that mold. And you can get very, very thin fins. And in actuality, you can actually clamp them tighter and get a thinner fin than what the fish would have had originally. So I just think that people are so used to seeing cheaper replicas made by, a lower end supplier, or maybe something that, has been pulled a bunch, and just they have that bad taste in their mouth where, it just kind of looks like a fake fish. Ideally, if I do a fish and I have a skin mount laying next to a reproduction, you shouldn't see a lot of difference, in the two. And you shouldn't for sure see, any bad qualities in the replica, as far as, being super thick, being clunky, being junky like that. The stuff that we do now and is really just incredible. Like every tooth patch, it's super incredible, really. You can get so much cool stuff in replicas now. So yeah, I think that's just the misinformation out there that, you're going to get just this style of a replica for this fish and it's going to look really crappy and really, cheap. Having said that, you can start out with a really, really good replica. And if you can't paint, if you're not an artist, then that replica, even though it's very, very highly detailed, is still going to look kind of crappy. So it's several pieces of the same puzzle, if that makes sense. So you have to have somebody that uses a good replica, and then you have to have somebody that can paint that replica very, very well.
Gotcha. You were mentioning, Jimmy, that, okay, so you guys, when you do a replica, you order the molds and everything. So if you don't have the right mold, like you're saying, a specific fish was too, the big ass girth, right? Then you can't get. How do you get those molds to reach that? Or I mean, where are these molds coming from? Is it something that you create, or how does that work? I don't know.
Yep. So there are basically two ways that molds that replicas come from are made. They are either, and the most common is made from a dead fish. So if somebody somewhere has killed a fish in that size, they have sent it to somewhere and they have made a mold of that fish. Okay. The other way to do that is they are based off carvings or models. So you can carve them out of high density foam, clay, wood, etc., and then they'll mold that, and then they can in turn pull replicas out of those molds. So I myself probably have anywhere between 150 and 200 different molds of various species that I've made off of fish that people have sent to me from all over the United States. A very, very small percentage, actually less than 2% of my business is Iowa business. It's from all over the place.
Wow.
Which is exceptional for me and really exciting, because I come from a town or rural area with literally like less than 100 people. My closest neighbor right now is over a mile away, which is kind of sweet.
Wow.
So I've done work for people all the United States. I've done work for Cabela's, all these different places, and I'm located here. So basically, if somebody on the West Coast or East Coast or wherever caught this fish that they wanted done, they would, pack it the way I tell them to, send it to me, and I would basically bed the fish in my mold box, make a 2-part mold of that fish. So basically, I'd have a negative side A, side B that would be hollow, and on each side of that would be perfectly detailed halves of a fish. And then I would brush material into side A, side B, clamp it together, and then out would pop a finished part, if that kind of makes sense. So to get back to your original question, if you caught one that, say you caught a 20-inch smallmouth with a 19-inch girth, okay, chances are I'm probably not going to be able to find that fish. And if I don't have my own molds that I have made, I'll try to outsource. And there's several different companies that make blanks, be it a huge supplier or an independent seller like myself. Basically, what I would say was, hey, look, man, like I found one, but it's not quite the same. It's, I found a 21 or 22 by 19. Or I found a 20 by 17, so I found one that's the same length, but a little bit shyer on the girth, or I found one that's the same girth, but it's just a little bit longer. So if you don't keep the fish in order to get one, to match your fish without doing a whole lot of custom sculpting and stuff like that, you basically got to go with what exists and what's close. That's the biggest thing that I think the general public doesn't understand is there is not a mold out there for every single size of fish. Mm-hmm. So, you catch a fish and you want to release it, which is great. It's super perfect that you want to do that, but just understand that there might not be an exact match to that fish. Sometimes you got to bump up or bump down. At the end of the day, whether it's a skin mount or a reproduction or a wood carving or whatever, it's about something that you can look at on your wall that preserves that memory for you in your heart. To me, that's like that's like the end goal. You want a great representation of that day, of that memory, of that fish. If it's an inch or two, different in one way or the other, 9 times out of 10, it's not a big deal. And usually if you pitch to the customer, well, I found one that's maybe an inch or two longer than your fish, everybody's going to be like, oh yeah. Let's go with that one. Let's go with the bigger one. Yeah. So, it's just one of those deals where I am fully supportive of catch and release and everything like that, and take as many pictures and measurements as you want. But at the same time, like those unique fish, those really primo fish, you can kill that one fish and I can make a mold of it, and it would save every other fish that size from ever needing to be killed again. So, basically everybody needs to understand that if, at some point that fish mold that replica came from a dead fish.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
So with the skin mounts, does it have like the bones and the meat and all that stuff? Is everything still there, or are you skinning the fish and then putting it around like a blank?
Yep, that's a pretty much exactly what it is. So basically, how I do it is I lay the fish on a piece of paper, freezer paper, and I trace the fish, take all my measurements, and then I skin the fish. So basically I start on, if it's a wall mount, I'll start on the back side and I'll make a cut completely down the side of the fish. And then it's a process of just going right underneath that skin and taking all that meat out, all the meat, all the bones and everything. And then you basically have your fish skin will kind of lay somewhat flat. And then you'll take your tools and stuff and you'll clean all that skin off. But you have to be careful because if you scrape too hard, like you can literally hold up a fish skin and read through it. Like it's that thin on most fish. So you have to really be careful that you're not stressing the skin out, but you take all the meat and everything, all the tissue that you can off of that skin. And then you preserve the skin in a solution, whatever solution you use for your fish tan. So, kind of like animal skins are tanned. And then you wrap that skin around a body that you've carved or purchased that is the right size. And then that dries on there. And then you have to go back, if you use the real fins and the real head, and rebuild all the shrunken tissues up, put your eyes in there and everything like that, and then seal it really good. And then the painting process can begin. What a lot of people don't realize is every fish has to be completely painted. They all lose their color. They get really chalky and muted. Or they can dry really dark. But at any event, like every finished fish that you see on the wall, whether it's a replica or a skin mount, has been hand painted by whoever did it. So that's something that a lot of people don't know, that you have to paint fish. A lot of people think that, even a skin mount fish is going to hold its color perfectly, and you just basically shellac it and put it on a panel and it's done. So
okay. Oh yeah, like I had no idea, because I'm in all these Facebook groups and always see people arguing with like, skin mount versus replica. And like some of those like little details that are behind the scenes, like I had no idea. Like I bet those people don't even know.
That's the much as I'm sure you guys are well aware, if you're on any social media, there are a lot of experts on social media that have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. So I have literally had people argue with me about things that they know nothing about, like telling me how to do taxidermy and stuff like that, and they didn't know who I was or where I come from or what my occupation was. But I even had one lady, I have a couple DVDs that are sold worldwide on instruction on taxidermy and stuff, and I was kind of giving this woman advice, and And, we had a back and forth for a little bit. She's like, you know what? Like, I had no idea who I was talking to. I am literally watching your DVD. Like, I didn't even put the 2 and 2 together. And I'm like, it's no big deal. It's like, everybody has so much information, right, wrong, and in between. You get those people, basically the most people that push skin mounts, they want their fish. Like, I want my fish. I don't want somebody else's fish. I want my fish. Well, that's understandable. And again, like, I don't push anybody one way or the other. There's a few different species of fish that I will only do replicas on. Now, if you caught your fish and you wanted your fish, I would then steer you towards that custom mold option, where I would take your fish and actually make a mold of your fish. So any imperfection that your fish had, that mold would have. Any scars, any splits, anything wrong, it would literally be the exact copy made off of your fish. So you get the best of both worlds. You get a replica that's going to last, forever, and you also get your exact fish. So there again, I get it. It's your fish. You want your fish. You killed the fish. Sometimes you can make the best of both worlds and get that fish molded. And then, another nice thing about that is let's say you let me mold your 20-inch smallmouth with a 19-inch girth. And I have that mold and I do that replica for you. And, your house burns down, or a tornado comes through and wipes your house off the face of the earth. I've still got your mold, and I can pull you another exact copy out of that, and you have that fish. It's happened to me 2 different times in the last 5 years with wildfires in California.
Wow.
People have had me do replicas for them, and I have molded their fish, and their houses have been lost in the wildfires, and I am able to go right back to their mold, get them the exact same thing they had before, and insurance covers it, which is another, super crazy thing for me. Typically the first pull out of each mold I save, and I store that in a different building than my actual molds. That way, if my mold storage shed catches on fire and I lose all my molds, I still have the master, the first pull out of that I can remold, and vice versa. So it's just something to think about. But yeah, you see everybody argue on social media about, everything, this, my wallpaper is blue. No, it's not. It's green. No, it's not. It's purple.
Yep.
It's whatever,
Agreed. It's, what, okay, let's just say I caught a monster fish. I want to, whether I want to get a replica or whether I want this one actually mounted, right? What do you recommend I do? I don't know what I'm doing. I just caught the fish. What if, let's just say we'll start, I want that specific fish done. How do I take care of that fish so that nothing gets damaged, and then I can ship it to you however you want me to ship? So I want to make sure, I want to keep it preserved, and whatever the case may be, because a lot of people just think that all I heard is wrap it in newspaper and you can ship it to that person, they should be good to go. But I don't know.
Yep. Nope. That's super common, is the newspaper or the paper towel thing. Don't ever do that. So never do that. But okay. I get that. I still get that all the time. So newspaper, if you wrap them up in wet newspaper, that ink can actually transfer onto the fish's skin. So when you unwrap that, I can literally read the Des Moines Register on the side of your fish. That's just an old school thing. It's not the best way to do it. So I'll basically talk you through it from the start, and we can go all the way through it. Okay. So you've caught your smallmouth and you're super excited about it. The first thing I want to tell you is if you want that fish, I recommend taking pictures immediately. So take 1 or 2 really, really good detailed pictures, not in the sun, not in the shadow, just, really good pictures of that fish. And that's good advice for replica too. If you're going to release the fish, measure the overall total length of the fish and the total circumference, the girth. Everybody measures length and they'll get the weight. They always forget girth. And the number one excuse is, oh man, I had to get her back in the water. Okay, you sent me a 7-minute GoPro video of you hold it up like this and like this, and like this, and like this, but you couldn't take 5 seconds and wrap a soft tape measure around it to get the girth. Measure girth. Girth is very important, especially for a replica. So you're going to keep yours. You're going to do a skin mount or a custom mold or whatever. Don't gut the fish. Don't, try not to put it on a stringer if you can help it. If you're bank fishing and you need to put it on a stringer, go ahead, but try to do it where you're going to, create the least amount of damage behind the gills. Don't throw it on the rocks. If you're fishing a spillway, don't let it get beat up. Don't bang it up. Try to keep the fish in the water and as protected as you can. Whenever I go fishing for trout in the high country, I take pillow sacks with me, and then I just use the pillow sacks. I put the pillow sacks in the water, and I use the pillow sacks like a live well, basically. They're a live well, and they keep the fish protected. So I would recommend, especially if you have a pretty good idea, if you're fishing in an area that you think you're going to get a pretty good fish in, it's not a bad idea to carry like a bath towel or, an old towel or a t-shirt or something in your bag. Just so you can wet that up, wrap it up. If you're in a boat, keep the fish in a live well. When it comes time to go home, again, don't throw it in the back of your pickup or your car and let it flop around. Don't put it in your bucket. Try to keep the fish as protected as you can and don't let it dry out. So wrap it up in a wet t-shirt if you can, or a wet towel, or a garbage bag or something, and keep it wet. You don't have to have it in water, but just keep it wet and keep it protected until you get home. When you get home, lay the fish out, rinse it all off, make sure it's clean, and take saran wrap if you can and wrap it up nice in saran wrap, just plastic wrap. If you can't do that, soak up a wet t-shirt or wet towel. T-shirts work better than towels because towels can sometimes leave the towel prints in the soft tissues of the fish. Again, splitting hairs there, but t-shirts are a little bit better there. And soak that up and wrap it up in it, just kind of roll it up like a burrito, and then slide that inside of a trash bag, roll that up like a burrito so that no air can get into it, and then freeze it flat. The biggest enemy is air. So if you wrap it up in a towel, the worst thing you can do is wrap a wet fish up in a dry towel and then just throw it in your freezer. So what that does is that just almost immediately makes it freezer burn. So that towel will wick out all of the moisture in the fish and it'll just ruin it like instantly. If you have that fish wrapped up in plastic really good and wrapped up in a wet towel or wet t-shirt, inside that plastic, I've literally done fish that have been in the freezer like that for 10 years and they're perfect.
Wow.
So it's the air is the biggest killer. So, freeze it flat, wrap it up really good, stuff like that. And then get it to your taxidermist as soon as you can. If applicable, if you've got the fish in a live well or in a bucket or something, and you live within like an hour or whatever, if you can, drive it to your taxidermist if they're able to meet you, immediately. I've had people several times throughout the year call me and be like, hey, I just caught this fish. Would you be willing to take it in tonight? I've still got it in a bucket, or whatever the case may be. And then I'll take care of it here. But, the better care you take of your fish or deer or whatever you're working with, the better odds you are of going to have, of making that a nicer mount. So if I start out with a fish that's been thrown on the riprap from below a dam and all scarred up, and then I get to it and I mess, if I'm starting out with something that's not great, expecting me to do something in the end that's great is,
That's very true, man. Good thing I asked you, because I always thought that it's the newspaper thing, man.
It still pops up all the time. Yeah, that's a common thing. That's just it's just the way it used to be done. That's how I was told to do it whenever I was a kid, and that's just something that people still on occasion do. So
yeah, so you do animals other than fish too, right?
Very few. I used to do quite a bit. I used to do everything, birds, fish, game heads, life size, all of it. And I have grown my fish business over the years so much that I've been able to just pretty much focus on, mostly specializing in fish. I still have a handful of people that I'll do, big game for and stuff like that. But buying, day in and day out, it's mostly fish.
Okay. So is there like a skin mount and replica mount thing for like a deer too?
There is not. Nope. I mean,
No?
you could kind of do like a recreation on that, but it's really hard to recreate the fur and stuff like that as far as texture goes.
Yeah.
So
makes sense. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Do you have a preference on as the artist, coming from your perspective, do you have a preference between doing a skin mount or replica, or like is one easier than the other?
Skin mounts are easier in a way because when they dry, you can still see some of the subtleties in the spot, like the spot patterns or something like that. You can kind of see where some things are. And a lot of like cold water stuff, like trout and stuff, you can still see like the spots and everything exactly where they were. They're just muted. So from a painting standpoint, skin mounts tend to be a little bit easier in a way because you still have some of the original markings there that you can use as like a template, if that makes sense, to go back over that.
Mm-hmm.
The downside to that is they can dry really dark. So, if you're trying to add paint to an already dark surface, it's really easy to get them really dark really fast. So you almost have to go back and lighten up a dark fish before you start painting. One nice thing about painting a replica from an artist standpoint is I primer everything white. So it's literally a blank canvas. So I can literally make them as pretty as I want the very first time without having to tweak it or tone it. I start out with something that's clean and neat, and I can really see everything and not have to worry about anything that was there underneath. Skin mounts are nice, and they don't require necessarily as much paint a lot of times because everything's there for you. And then sometimes replicas are nicer because you don't have to worry about covering up anything that might be there. You can just start as is, brand new, and you can just paint and get it done.
Very cool.
Yeah. Do you prefer one or the other, or is it just all the same to you?
To me, man, fish are fish to me. Like, I just love painting fish. I love working on fish. The only thing I don't like is trash day after I've skinned a bunch of fish. So that's really the only downside of skin mounts is just just the mess and the smell. Not that replicas aren't messy, because I've got a really nice dust collector and dust collection system and downdraft table and all that stuff to eliminate dust. But each one is cool in their own right. Like, it's cool to me to carve a fish's body, and you start out with just a block, rectangular block of foam, and by the time I start cutting it out and I'm shaping it, like, it starts to look really cool, and I'm running my hands over it the whole time, and then I'm skinning it, and I set the skin over it, and it starts to come together. So to me, that's really rewarding when you've carved a good body and it really looks the way it should look, and then everything dries nice, and you get everything rebuilt, and you set an eye, and you make your eye set really cool, and then you start to seal it and paint it, and then it starts to come to life before your eyes. Same thing with a replica. Like, making a mold is pretty fun for me. Like, you have the fish laid out, you make the mold, and it's always kind of the downside of making molds is you can only work on one side at a time. So as I'm making this one side, everything is perfect, everything's in shape, it looks good. I make that one side, it sets up, it does its thing. I flip it over to do the other side, and sometimes there's like a flat spot or a dent or something from it being in the freezer or something, and that you can't see until you flip it over. So it's almost like Christmas morning when you make a mold. You start out with something you're really excited about, and you flip it over, and it could be, oh, it's a great surprise, or oh no, it's not exactly what I wanted. So but to me, that's just a cool part of it, and then you get this mold, and you get two sides of this mold, and there's not a fish in it, but you can see, like, this is a negative of a fish and this is a negative of a fish. And you clean it up, and you get it all worked up and everything, and then you brush the material out, and then your very first pull is always the one that has the most detail in it. And it's just like, man, like, you did all this hard work, and you spent all this time, and now you have something that you can produce multiple casts out of, and you get to see it and hold it in your hand, and you're like, when I started this, this was just a dead fish, and now I've got something that is tangible that you can do, and then the same thing, you get the seams ground down, you attach the fins, you put the eyes in it, you primer it, and then it's all very enjoyable for me. I really enjoy it.
It's cool, man. I swear I've seen an increase in interest. I don't know if it's just because of social media that's just making it seem that way, but I just see more and more people who are looking into getting stuff mounted and everything. But you were talking about, you guys have, like, I think you guys had competitions and stuff, and you're a judge for taxidermy. Like, can you explain a little bit about that? Like, what is that and where is it? Where do they hold these competitions?
Yeah. So each state typically has a taxidermy association. When you get like onto the coast, sometimes they'll have like the New England Association of Taxidermists, where they'll have like 4 or 5 states in New England together. Same thing with like the Pacific Northwest. They'll have like Washington, Oregon, and Alaska or whatever, all maybe, belong to a Northwest association or whatever. But typically, all the states, all the Midwest states for sure, have individual taxidermy associations through each state, and they're at different times of the year, and they all have competitions. So basically how competitions work is anybody can come from any state, however far you want, and compete, and there's different levels. So there's like amateur, like 15 and under, and then 16 and over. Then there's novice, wow, which is a little bit above that. Then there's professional, which is, people that do this for a living, but maybe aren't quite, don't quite have it figured out, but kind of, do this, fairly proficiently. And then the highest that you can go is masters, which is the level where you're supposed to have everything figured out. You're supposed to know everything there is to know, but nobody knows everything there is to know. I'll tell you that right now. But I've competed masters for several years. And I started competing in professional, and then I competed in professional a couple of years and did really well. And then I just bumped right up into masters, and then I've been competing in masters ever since. Yeah, so, you know, you might be competing against people that have won. And then like every other year, there's like a world show. So that's like everywhere, like people from all over the world, like everywhere come and compete here. So then you have like best in world, you know, second in world, third in world, and so on and so forth. And then there's a national show too, you know. So there's a lot of these different shows that go on, and I've been fortunate to be a part of quite a few of them, from Florida all the way to Colorado and everywhere in between. Yeah, so I competed. I've been competing since I was 18, and it's funny. Like I have competed against a lot of the judges that have judged me when I was younger and stuff, and I've actually beat them. So it was really, really cool for me, you know, to be somebody that, you know, that has had somebody judge my stuff and just kick my teeth in, you know, in a nice way, you know, just, you know, been hard on me, and then I was actually able to compete against them, and then I beat them. So
Wow.
that's been really, really cool from a competition standpoint as a competitor. And then in the last couple of years, I've been judging shows. So I've actually been completely on the other side of the coin, where I have been the judge and I am judging the competitors. So, you know, there's obviously going to be competitors that are going to be looking forward to kicking my butt here very shortly too. So
Dude, that's pretty cool. I had no idea that it was this big of an industry and just competition wise and everything. That's pretty darn cool to have that. That's no.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty cool. And that's kind of how I got my business started, is just competing at all these different shows and meeting and networking and meeting so many different people that do so many different things, you know, and then you start winning, and then, you know, your name gets out there, you know, you start winning, you know, various shows, getting a whole bunch of awards, people take notice, and then that's a nice feather to put in your cap, you know, hey, I just got back from the state show and I was state champion, you know, or, you know, national champion or world champion. I haven't competed at nationals or world yet, but you know, I hope to someday. But yeah, it's really cool, you know. And then I have, like I said, I work with another group of gentlemen, some of my closest friends that have a company called Taxidermy University, and we make and sell DVDs. You know, we do instructional DVDs from all levels. From, you know, I just released one on you know, taxidermy, you know, on mounting a fish 101. That's basically, you know, takes you from step by step how to taking it out of the freezer to a finished product. And then I've also got painting a replica. A couple of my buddies have like a competition turkey video, you know, a competition whitetail video. So, you know, it's just all these different things that you do that get your name out there, you know, from an educational standpoint and everything else that allow you to do that. But I agree with you. Like in the last probably 3-4 years, the demand for taxidermy has been much higher than it has previously. And then the number of taxidermists as well, which I think that kind of goes hand in hand. You know, you have, you know, so many people wanting to get stuff done. And then you also have some people that are just like I was when I got started, like, hey, you know what? Like, I see all my friends getting stuff mounted, and like, I know I like to get stuff mounted. Like, maybe I should try that, you know, and then they'll try it. And in the last 10 years, I've probably had a half a dozen or so taxidermists pop up within 30 miles of me, and there's only one of them still around. So they come and they go. You know, they realize that it isn't as easy as they thought, and that, you know, if you treat it like an actual business, you know, it is work. You know, it's not just like I'm just sitting there, you know, cranking tunes, painting fish all day, you know, just easy peasy, which I do that a lot. But you know, it's work, man. There's some days where it's work. You know, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, you know. Yeah, so I think it's cool that people still want to get stuff done, and you know, people aren't afraid to kill fish still, which is nice. It's so weird with, if you kill a muskie, like you'll have people with pitchforks at your front door, like, you know, muskie fishermen are like the worst as far as killing stuff. So it's so bizarre. You don't have that with any other, really, as far as sportsmen go. You don't have anybody that gives anybody else any crap, like, you know, about killing things. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so weird that fishermen, you know, can come together and be so tight and yet be so separate on so many things. It's just crazy. I don't know. I might never understand it. I don't know, man. It's just weird. It's just like, I don't know. I get it. Like, you want to see fish live, and you want to let fish go, and I get it. And it takes, you know, certain fish a long time to get that big, but it's just like, man, at the end of the day, you know, if you pay your fishing license and it's illegally taken fish, I mean, it's your right to do what you want with it, man. Like, I'm not going to shame you for killing it. Like,
Yeah.
Great, good. I don't know.
Right.
It's just so weird. I don't know. And social media is the worst. It's the best and the worst because it gives everybody a voice and everybody an opinion, and you get to share it with everybody. So
Yeah.
before, I mean, it was, I don't know. The worst to me is when people are rude to kids or mean to kids, or things like that. Like a kid catches a fish and they're super psyched about it. And then maybe it's like an 18-inch bass, and like, oh yeah, headed to the taxidermy, super excited. And somebody's like, oh, you guys mount a fish that small, or, whatever, like who would mount a fish like that? And it's just like, man, that's a kid. Like, even if it's not a kid, like maybe that's the first fish they've ever caught in their life. Yeah. Maybe that's, they've fished their entire life and they've never made it happen. Like, size is very, very subjective to me in taxidermy. Like it makes no difference to me. Like, as far as my enthusiasm and my happiness goes, it makes no difference whether it's a 10-inch bluegill or, a 112-inch marlin. Like I treat everything with the same amount of respect. And whether you call me with a 10-inch bluegill or a 12-pound bass, whatever, like I'm still just as excited to talk to you about it. Like, we're all people, man. We're just,
yeah.
I don't know.
With you.
I don't know. It's just weird. You know how it is. You know what I'm trying to say. People are mean.
No,
yeah.
Those musky fishermen. You're right. They're a breed of their own, man. They are very peculiar about maintaining that species and not harming them. So I get it. But but like you're just saying, sometimes it's within their legal rights. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. I dig the passion, man. I mean, and that's what's I dig their passion for their species. Like that's amazing. I truly respect that. Like, there isn't a person on the planet that loves fish any more than I do. I promise. Like, even though I deal with the dead ones all the time, like I am in this and I do this because I have just, just fascinated and enthralled with fish my entire life. So, it's to each their own. Like, I wouldn't shame you for killing a muskie any more than I would, shame you for letting it go and getting a replica. Like, just, we're all fishermen, we're all anglers, we're all people. Let's just be nice and support each other.
Yeah, like the thing that always gets me is when somebody keeps a big fish and eats it, people are up in arms. And then like, let's say the same big fish and somebody keeps it to mount it, and then everyone's like, yeah.
Yep. It's weird. It's so weird. There's a lot of double standards out there, man. It's
oh, so
I
funny.
Don't know.
Well, speaking of fishing, Jay, tell us a little bit about you, man. What do you like to fish for? What do you fish for down there in your neck of the woods? What's your favorite species?
Oh, what would be my favorite? Panfish are probably. Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Sorry, Jimmy, you were cutting in and out, but yeah, I was talking to you. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I could have been a bad connection. Panfish, big bluegill are probably my favorite to fish for around here. Okay. Having said that, I have some exceptional largemouth bass fishing in farm ponds around me, just like really, really crazy big bass. Within just a few yards of, 100 yards of my house, I've got several different ponds with giant bass in it. But I try to focus a lot on just bluegill fishing with a fly rod. It's just kind of my thing. That's just kind of my favorite thing to do. So.
Yeah, you guys got some big bluegills down there, don't you?
Huge.
Yeah. I'm guessing you ice fish too. You ice fish, don't you?
Very much. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We might have to hit you up, Jimmy.
Yeah. It's crazy too. These farm ponds are an untapped resource, man. There's a few old guys that fish it, but I don't know, man. There's several farm ponds where you can wear out 9 to 10 to 11-inch bluegill pretty consistently. Everybody says they catch 12-inch bluegill. In all my time as in over 17 years, I've taped one bluegill over 12 inches. One ever. Like, wow. And people will tell you they catch them every year. They catch them, we caught stringers. We caught 5-gallon buckets full of 12 inches in the 90s. Like, no, you did not. Like, no, you did not. Same thing with crappie, like 20-inch crappie. Like, just, you have so many people tell you this. And like, the biggest crappie that I have ever seen is 19.25 inches. And it literally goes from the tip of my finger up to my bicep. Like, it is just unbelievably big. And it weighed 4.32 pounds. Caught just down in Missouri, just across the border here. But I don't know. Like, these farm ponds are crazy, and they're ice fishing them it's honestly, it should be cheating. Like, it's not to say that you don't get skunked on farm ponds, because I've been skunked more times than zero for sure. But yeah, ice fishing's a ride. When we get good ice, as you guys know up there, like last few years have kind of been wishy-washy as far as good quality ice for extended periods of time. It doesn't lock up until way after Christmas. A lot of times as far as good fishable ice down here by me, especially.
Mhm.
And then it seems like we'll get like a weird spurt in there that first week of February where it's like, 70, 80 degrees and makes it gross. And then, who knows, but yeah, I'm always willing to have some people join me fishing for sure.
All right, yeah, we gotta make it happen this upcoming season.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you. So I'm sure you've seen like all sorts of crazy pictures and seen all sorts of crazy fish. So what surprises you nowadays? Like you just see a fish, like, oh my God, I can't believe you caught this fish.
Right. So probably the most surprising thing for me is just to see like big bass. I'm just so wore out on seeing pictures of big bass, and I do a lot of big giant bass. So it takes a really, really big one for me to be like, holy crap, that's a big one. But I would say like the big smallmouth that people have been catching out west, like in Montana and stuff like that, just they're super big freak, 7+ pound smallmouth. They always
Wow.
really kind of like, holy crap, that's a giant. Those kind of catch my eye. And then those big red ears that they catch out of like Havasu, like the big 4 and 5 pound red ear sunfish that are just like, 15 inches long and just super, super huge. It's hard for me to imagine just a sunfish that weighs 5 pounds. It's really
Wow.
hard for me to wrap my,
Yeah.
any big panfish really, really gets me going. But those big red ears especially. Yeah, I don't know. Any big fish is exciting, but I would say the super, super big panfish and the big smallmouths are really kind of what gets my attention. They're pretty cool.
What would you say is like takes the longest to do? If someone sends you a fish, is there a specific species or size, or doesn't matter? Is there a specific fish that, damn, this one just takes freaking forever for you to actually mount and replicate or whatnot?
Sure. So the biggest hiccup for me time-wise is just the sheer volume of work that I do, which is hopefully going to change moving forward. I'm going to try to restructure some things so I'm not quite as busy. But last year, man, I got over a year's worth of work in 6 months. Like last year with COVID it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think it was just a combination of everybody was off work for the first half of the year, so everybody was fishing.
Yeah.
Stimulus checks, free money, everybody, doing whatever. So just I got flooded with work. But probably the fish that take me the longest to do are like crappie. Take me the longest to paint. Probably like a crappie and a pumpkin seed. Both are just they take me a long time. Those little panfish tend to take the longest for me to paint, that have the most the most complex colors and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Excuse me. A bass, I can paint a bass in my sleep. Like I've got a largemouth down, almost any size largemouth, down to about 2 hours, give or take, is how long it takes me to paint one. But panfish, there's no fast way to do those. I do a lot of individual hand painting on panfish, bluegill, crappie, anything like that. But they seem to really take the longest for me to do. Crappie, they take forever. Like I paint, and then I go back over it and layer paint, and then I do a bunch of hand painting, and then I do some airbrushing. Same thing with like pumpkin seeds, like hybrid bluegill, things like that, of that nature.
Mhm.
Those little fish, believe it or not, those smaller, even like a big panfish, an 11 panfish, takes me as long, if not longer, than say a 26-inch largemouth, just
Wow.
because of the complexity of the work. Yeah.
Never thought of that. Makes sense though.
So what's your
Yeah.
typical
Yeah.
yeah, so what's your typical turnaround time for, okay, you're gonna start this bass. Like typically how long would that take?
So from start to finish, once I get to your specific fish, say I've got it, and I've got everything done to it, from the time I get it primered and ready to paint to the time it's painted and done is usually, I try to do them in batches. So like during a week, I'll try to get like 5 fish painted in a week or something like that. But like I said, so like on a typical largemouth, if I were to start painting one tomorrow, like I would have one done probably in like 2 to 3 hours, depending on what's going on, if it was ready to paint. The turnaround time part of it is, I've got, 50, 60, 70 orders on the books, whether they're custom molds, purchase replicas, skin mounts and stuff like that. So, I try to do like 1 week I'll mold like 3, 4, 5 fish. And then the other week I will skin a bunch of fish, and then 1 week I'll paint a bunch of replicas. And then the other week I will, do the rebuilding on all the skin mounts. So it's hard to, when somebody asks me like, how long does a 5-pound bass take to do, why does it take, a year, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, how can it take that long to do on that small of a fish? It's not all that work on that one fish. It's all the work from everybody else combined that makes the timeline so long. So, if all I had to do was just one fish, it would be fairly fast. But when I've got, 100+ fish to do in a calendar year, it makes it a little tougher. So.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah. My new structure is going to be, I'm going to try to limit the amount of fish that I take in. I'm going to up my price a little bit and really focus on doing a little higher end fine tuning, like really, really taking my time, maybe only doing 50 to 75 fish a year instead of 175 fish a year. Not that I don't do a good job now, obviously I do. It's just, I think if I slow things down, I won't be, 12, 14, 16 months out. I'll be, under a year easily. And, I won't have to be, dealing with that anxiety. And then I'll, be able to spend more time on each fish and it'll just work out better for everybody. Like I said, last year, getting all those orders in that short period of time, and I'm a one-man shop. So it's just like, holy crap, what do you do? So I work every day, and it's just like, man, like I'm not catching up very fast. So I haven't really taken in anything in 2021 at all. Just kind of been working on backlog from 2020, but it's going good, man. It's just, it's a labor of love. And if I could do it faster, I would absolutely do it faster. It's just, there's only so many, you want to be as fast as you can and as efficient as you can and still put out high end quality work is the thing. So where people get into trouble is if they start rushing it and they start cutting corners and, maybe not doing as detailed of a paint job. Yes, you're getting through the orders faster, but at the same time, like what built my business was quality, and details. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to sacrifice that just to get things done faster. So it's just, kind of give and take, but yeah, it's just, everybody and every taxidermist that I know all across the country is, almost 2 years behind, a year behind, just from last year, just everybody got busy with everything. So, yeah. But with, with COVID and everything, like a lot of our suppliers were shut down for, 2, 3, 4 months. So, that, last year was unprecedented in a bunch of ways. So,
okay. Yeah. So how do you tell a customer like, oh, I'm not taking any, like, how do you turn them down? Do you like refer them to somebody else or just tell them to wait?
So what I kind of did this past year in 2021, since I haven't really been taking much in, was I'll tell people, hey, I'm not really, taking anything. If you're willing to wait, great. I can add you to a callback list, or I can, touch base or have you touch base with me, later on in the year when I'm a little bit more caught up and I can kind of go through that with you. I try not to recommend anybody else just because it's not that I don't want anybody else to have the work, but like if I recommended you to somebody else and like they did you dirty or something, mm-hmm. Then that would reflect poorly on me. And I don't want to be in the middle of that. So, I'll tell people, if you want to go somewhere else, by all means do that. Like, I understand if you're not wanting to wait or if you don't like my price or anything like that. I don't argue with you. I don't have any bad feelings or ill will, by all means, go ahead, do that. Or, you can wait and I'll reach back out, when I open things up and most of the people are very understanding about that. They'll be like, hey, I really like your style. I like you. I want you to do it. I'll wait however long it takes. And I'm very blessed. Like most of my customers are super cool. And even the people that have, followed me on Instagram or whatever, I find that in taxidermy with a lot of different businesses, taxidermy is kind of unique because people will use you, number one, because they like your style, and number two, because they like you as a person. So, they might have somebody in their town that does really, really good work, maybe even better work than I do, but they like the style that I do it, the way that I do it, and they like me as a person, so that they want to use me. They dig my vibe, or for whatever reason. So people can be super, super loyal that way. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this business is like people, you'll go out to eat or you'll go somewhere and you'll run into somebody, one of your customers, like, hey man, this is my taxidermist, like they're like super, committed to you, and like, hey man, this is my guy, and then there'd be people online that recommend me that I have literally never met, never spoken to, never done work to, be like, hey man, this guy was telling me about you and said that, you're the only one that would ever do one of his fish and you're the best and all this other stuff. And these are people that I've never met, these are, it's just, it's truly humbling and amazing to me that people can be that attached and that committed and that great and gracious to somebody that they've never met just because they like you as a person or they like your work, whether or not they've used me or not. I just think that's super, super cool. So, I try to tell people, and that's one thing too, is like, if I've had your fish for a long time, I won't ever ignore your calls. I might not give you the right answer or the answer that you want to hear, but I'll always be like, hey man, like I don't have it done yet. The worst thing you can do, and where some people get in trouble, is taxidermists will just stop all communication. Like they won't return phone calls, they won't return emails, unless it's like 9 o'clock on a Saturday or a Sunday. I mean, I'm more than likely going to answer your messages, in a pretty timely fashion. But yeah, I try to tell, keep in contact with everybody, like, hey, like I'm behind, I'm working on it, you're coming up, or hey, I'm waiting for your blank to come in, or whatever. Like I might not always have the hey, it's done, it'll be done in 2 days answer, but I've always got an answer. So
I can respect that, man. That's called customer service. That's pretty badass, Jimmy. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, you don't see that too often.
I truly try.
That's awesome, man. Man, this has been so educational, man. I learned so much in this pretty much hour, just kind of talking to you, and like so much more I want to ask. I'm just, while you're talking, I'm scrolling through your Instagram too, because I was watching it before. It's just like, it's freaking utterly amazing to me. So, but
yeah.
Hey Kit, do you got anything else for Jimmy before we let him go and everything? And you have any other questions? I want to make sure you get all your questions answered. I know you were dying to ask him some.
Oh, I guess I know you've probably done like so many damn mounts and stuff, but is there any one that just stands out to you like, man, I'm really damn proud of that one? I guess it'd be hard to pinpoint it down to the one, but is there just one that just jumps out to you like, man, man, something about that one?
Yeah, I've done a few like that over the years, that just, for whatever reason, like I might paint 100 largemouths in a year, and I might just have one that I like it. It's just the right paint on the right blank. One of my favorite all-time mounts that I've done is I did a pedestal smallmouth for a guy. It was a 22-inch 7-pounder. And I did it, finished it both sides, and I put it on some rocks and stuff like that. And it was just a really, really cool fish. And I really liked it. I just liked the presentation of it. I liked everything about it. And then I did a bluegill that's sitting in my showroom that I competed with for a while. That's one of my better fish that I've done, but it's so crazy. Like if I were to do one for me, and I would try to put as much love and compassion and time into it, it might not look as good as one that I would do in, say, 2 hours for a customer. Like I think you get to a point where you overthink it and you make it too complicated. Like some of my best fish are days when I put these on, or I've got my speaker going in the shop and I'm in the zone and I'm feeling it that day, and I can just sit and paint. And they just come out great. I'm not overthinking it. I'm not overcomplicating it. It's so crazy, but some of my all-time favorite pieces are not pieces that I've competed with, but are pieces that were just an everyday, day in and day out customer piece, that people, have taken home. I've done a couple of big crappie that I've been really, really fond of. I've done a couple bass that I'm really fond of. I don't know what would be my all-time favorite if I had to pick. I don't, it's so hard. And they're all so different,
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's one specific one where I'm just like, that's the one, I don't know that if I have one of all the things that I've ever done, that's my favorite, but there's definitely a few that stand out, as far as just, not getting lost in the shuffle of all of them. And it's weird too, like I can remember a lot of times the fish instead of the person. Like, hey, I came to you and you did a smallmouth for me on rocks or whatever, and you tell me how big it was, and like I'll remember the fish. I might not necessarily remember you, but like I'll remember the fish. Like, oh yeah, it was like 21 inches long, and like whatever, and I put it on this, and so sometimes that can stand out. But I don't know, they're all so cool, and that's what I think. I think I have a little bit of an attention disorder because I can't do one thing for a very long time. I have to kind of bounce around and do a bunch of different things. And that's one thing I think that keeps my mind going and keeps me so creative, is that there's always something different going on with each fish. Not all, if you catch 10 bass out of a pond, they might all look similar, but they're all 10 going to be different. So, I am always working on different fish. Even if I'm doing all bass one week, they're all different. So I get to use different paints. I get to look at them in different ways. They're all in different poses. That to me breaks up the monotony of it. It gets me to use my creativity a little bit. And just, I don't know, man. And you get to look at fish. Like, people pay me to look at fish. Like, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, man. Good question, Kit. Like that one.
Yeah.
Anything else for Jimmy, man?
So if our audience wants to reach out to you, how can they do that, Jimmy?
So the most prevalent way to get a hold of me probably would be to go to my Instagram page. That's just Lawrence Taxidermy Studio on Instagram. I'm on that pretty consistently. I do have a Facebook business page as well. I don't get on that nearly as often, hardly at all anymore. I've pretty much made a big shift towards the Instagram side of things versus the Facebook side of things. Just, kind of kept more active on Instagram. I stay very active on Instagram. I try to post, if not daily, almost daily. But that's probably the easiest way for people to get a hold of me. I also have an email, which all that information is listed on my Instagram page there. But that's probably the most efficient way to get a hold of me. And to follow on what I'm working on too, I try to post videos and up close pictures, and I really try to engage everybody on my Instagram page. The videos seem to be really popular. I don't do like step-by-step videos on there, but I'll post like me holding a fish as it's glossed, and you can see the different shimmers and colors on the fish, and people can really get a load of that, and that's pretty popular. But if you want to follow along and hear some good music and see some cool fish pictures, my Instagram page is a pretty cool place to do that. So
there you go. And I'll definitely put that in the show notes. We'll put all the links for your Facebook and the Instagram for you to follow. And I really highly recommend any listeners or people who are watching this on YouTube, really go check out Lawrence Taxidermy, his Instagram. It is badass. I'm telling you, you can't even tell if it's real or fake fish. That's how damn good. It's pretty, like, it's badass, man. So definitely follow Jimmy on that. And if you guys want, reach out to him. Man, this is, like I said, this has been really educational for me because I had no idea, but I was so hyped because I just wanted to know that don't use damn newspaper, idiot. I know that now, so that's a good thing. So
yeah. So if you learn one thing, to me that's worth the time. And I've never done anything like this either, so I've really enjoyed my time with you two guys. It's been awesome.
That's cool. No. Yeah. I mean, we love having you on on our podcast. We love learning new stuff and having, meeting new people and then meeting new ice fishermen. And we'll have another contact that we can go, a little bit southeast of us, so we can check out.
Yeah. And you're pretty much local to us, so that's a plus.
That's
too.
True.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. I'm a very short drive. Yeah.
There you go, man. So, but other than that, thank you so much, Jimmy. Really appreciate your expertise. Really appreciate your time with us. But like I said, everybody go check his Instagram out, go check out his Facebook, and just reach out to him. And you guys are I kid you not, you're gonna love his work. So thank you so much, Jimmy. Appreciate your time, man.
I appreciate the opportunity. I really enjoyed it tonight, guys.
All right, Jamie.